What was the last movie you saw in theaters? For me, it was The Invisible Man, and honestly, it might have been one of the best theatrical experiences I've had in my entire life. Sharing every gasp and scream with a crowded room was exhilarating. I don't think more than a few days have gone by since that I haven't thought about that restaurant scene in particular. Easily one of my favorite films I saw in 2020. And what a sad small list that is. Here's a complete list of all the newly released films I saw in 2020. I'll leave it up for a bit so you can soak it in. Okay, that's enough. I definitely saw far fewer movies in 2020 than I did in 2019, which makes absolutely zero sense because basically an entire year inside with nothing to do, plus every newly released movie going straight to streaming, should equal me watching a ton of stuff. But it didn't. Instead, I spent most of my time doing this. So productive. I don't know if it's just me, but I have a really hard time watching movies for the first time if I'm doing it at home. The theatrical environment just lends itself so much more naturally to being completely immersed in a film and its world. You're in a dark room, and the only source of light is the thing you're supposed to be paying attention to. Plus, there's a social stigma about being the asshole who ruins it for everyone else with your bright ass phone screen or talking really loud to the person next to you, so there's that. Meanwhile, at home, I'm surrounded by dozens of potential distractions. Traffic outside, upstairs neighbors stomping around, talking really loud. This fucking thing. This little guy, he's constantly on the coffee table, on the couch next to me, or in my lap, just taunting me. I'm never able to give my full attention to the thing I'm supposed to be giving my full attention to, because I constantly feel the urge to make sure the world didn't fucking end after I pressed play. Either I give in and check my phone for a couple of seconds, or something else pulls my gaze away from the screen, and now I've missed a few lines, I don't know where the scene is going, I'm getting confused, and I'm getting frustrated. I used to be the guy who made fun of people who watched movies like this, but now, for a variety of reasons, I've become that guy. Because of this incredibly serious and frankly tragic predicament, I've resorted to watching a lot of what I'm going to call low-stakes entertainment. These are either movies I've already seen before, or for whatever other reason, I'm not that bothered by not being 100% in. Didn't find the time to watch Mank, but you know what? I sure did blow through the entire Santa Claus trilogy in 3 days. Or, you know what? How about I rewatch The Sopranos or Breaking Bad another time? This is nowhere near a new observation, but during these stressful times, it's comforting to revisit familiar worlds and characters, to not be surprised by potentially unpleasant experiences. We get enough of that in day-to-day life now. Doesn't look like 2021 is going to be much better. So late last year, Warner Brothers announced they were going to be releasing their entire 2021 slate of films on HBO Max simultaneously with theaters. Now, so far, they're the only studio to adopt this strategy of release for this year, but if the pandemic persists, which, let's be realistic, it's going to, I can't see the other studios sitting on an entire year's worth of films waiting for things to get better for 2 years in a row. And for most people, I'm sure, what sounds like the more reasonable choice right now? Paying for one ticket per person to go see a movie in a place that's in no way guaranteed to be safe right now, or paying one single fee so everyone can crowd around a screen and watch in the comfort and safety of their own homes. We're living in unprecedented times, which call for creative solutions, including this new initiative for the Warner Brothers Picture Group. No one wants films back on the big screen more than we do. We know new content is the lifeblood of theatrical exhibition, but we have to balance this with the reality that most theaters in the US will likely operate at reduced capacity throughout 2021. Content. I don't think there's a word in the English language I hate more right now than content. Is this just what movies are nowadays? More shit to throw on in the background? Warner Brothers 2021 slate. These are movies I'm looking forward to. In the Heights, The Suicide Squad, Many Saints of Newark, Space Jam 2. My only reasonable choice to watch these movies this year is to watch them at home, and I know how that's gonna go. I'm not. In the past few years, many of my favorite filmmakers have made films that went direct to a streaming service, and you know what? Haven't watched most of them. Mank, The Five Bloods. It took me like 4 years to finally watch Okja. These movies are announced, maybe they get a couple of trailers, but then they finally drop, and then they're just another piece of content to add to the ever-growing mountain of shit on these streaming services. Netflix is particularly guilty of this. Their obsession with quantity over quality leads to shit like this happening. These are only hidden gems because you're not promoting them, Netflix. You're the ones hiding them. It really sucks because several films released by these streaming services are made by underrepresented voices in the world of cinema, and they're just being buried under an exponentially expanding mountain of other shit. These companies only view these people's films as just more content to push out. product to keep people paying for a subscription. So things aren't looking so good right now. Theaters are really struggling, and it doesn't look like there's an end in sight to all this shit, so I honestly don't know if theaters can survive this. I've had conversations in the past, and it seems like, to most people, seeing a movie in a theater is something they could take or leave. I really wish I could have seen The Irishman in theaters. Other people are simply happy they didn't have to waste the money to do that. And barring some post-Paramount decree Disney theater hellscape, I really can't see studios forcing people to go see a movie in a theater now that the Pandora's box of direct-to-streaming has been opened. Now, obviously, in the grand scheme of things, what I'm saying doesn't matter that much. The amount of lives lost during this time easily outweighs not being able to see Godzilla fight King Kong in a dark room somewhere. And the real tragedy of the exhibition industry dying is all the people who are going to lose their jobs because of it, not me losing my preferred way to watch a movie. I know for a lot of people, the movie theater isn't some spiritual place. The floor is sticky, the concessions are expensive, and sometimes the projection isn't that great. The guy in front of you brought his iPad, he's got the brightness all the way up, and he insists on texting his buddies throughout the entire third act. Or, you know what, now someone's brought a baby to the loudest movie you think you've ever been to. But for me, the positive experiences tower over these little annoyances. I remember seeing the first Avengers movie maybe 3 times in theaters when I was 14. Every time, the whole theater was uproarious during this scene.
Puny God.
I didn't even hear what Hulk said here until months later watching at home. I'll never forget finally seeing Jaws, my favorite movie, in a theater for the first time, or almost a year ago now, right before the pandemic, seeing it again on a crappy LCD screen attached to the front of a movie theater downtown. My girlfriend and I, not at all dressed enough for the cold, watching this movie in soaking wet lawn chairs with drinks in our hands. It was freezing and there were Spanish subtitles covering up the entire bottom half of the screen, but my heart was still racing during those last 5 minutes. John Williams' score and that final explosion still kick ass, even on the world's shittiest sound system.
Smile, you son of a...
Movies are magical, and nothing can take that away. Even if theaters get taken away. Not counting repeats or things I've already seen, I have over 200 films on lists across various streaming services. And this isn't even counting movies that aren't on any streaming services that I've been meaning to see for years. This is what I've been spending a lot of my time doing lately, adding things to my lists. Every time I click one of those buttons, I'm making a promise to myself that someday soon I'm gonna watch this movie or that movie, one of the ones everyone's been telling me I just gotta see, but from the size of these lists, it's plain to see that most of those days just haven't come. So what am I, a fraud? Everyone I know thinks of me as the movie guy, but am I watching movies? No. And it's really ridiculous because I'm letting something that wouldn't even be a big deal to most people take away my ability to do one of my favorite things. So this year I'm making a promise to myself. I guess it could be a New Year's resolution. Once a week I'm going to watch a movie I've never seen before. Phone in the other room. Door closed if that's what it takes. Anything I have to do to give the film my full attention. If I really love movies as much as I say I do, I gotta put the work in. Mathematically, this works out to over 4 years of work, but it's not work. This is something I love doing, and I'm finding my way back to it. So, once a week, I'm committing to visiting a world I've never been to before and meeting people I never have before. It's as easy as sitting down and pressing play. Other way.
That's the wrong way. Shit. You said to the left. Wait, my other
Your left.